channel. This is a continuation of my videos on React Native. I've got so far 4 of them. This is kind of the first one is the initial setup with React navigation. This is adding an authentication flow. This next one here, number 3, is we start to I believe with this one, now that we have the authentication flow, we use Supabase. We get Supabase session to kind of manage a session for the auth flow. And number 4, we integrated login with Supabase and log out. And in this video, I'm going to, which will be number 5 to the series, I'm going to add create account. So I'll show you how to create accounts in Supabase, and then we'll log in with that account. I was going to integrate the assigning a user's photo when you create the account, but I felt that the complexity of adding the camera and the image upload to Supabase all in one video and make it kind of a long video. So I will do that in the 6th video. So in the 6th video, we'll integrate a camera, we'll do image upload with Supabase. So that was kind of a long intro. But if you like these videos, please make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get to the code. So we are right now inside the auth stack, which is where we have the login screen. But as you can see, things are getting a little bit crowded. So I am going to leverage the refactor ability of, what is this? This is Visual Studio Code to kind of move this login screen out to a separate file. First, let's start by selecting the login screen. And now refactor. There's this refactor, move to a new file. So now we have our login screen out to a separate file. But what you'll notice is that we have these imports that it's pulling in, this error alert and error text. We're going to end up using it in the create account screen. So let's create a kind of a utilities file for now. It's not JS, we'll just call it. And in this utilities file, let's go back to login screen. We're basically going to take I'm going to move the schema. So let's move the schema in. So let's go back to my auth stack. And we're going to move the login schema into the login file because that's where it belongs. So let's take this and put the login schema here. And there's no need to be exporting it. So let's remove this export. And then so we can remove that from there, and then let's just change this to utils.js, and just utils, and then let's pull the other files out of my auth stack. So we are taking these two, and we're going to put them in utils, and that should, so let's go back here. And it looks like everything is good again. Reference error, can't find yup. I think that's been resolved. Let's go back to our login screen. Yup is not there. So let's pull in yup from here because it should not be needed anymore. So let's take this out and put that here inside my login screen. And what's it saying now? Can't find variable React. So as you know, you need to have React in there. So let's copy this and put this to the top of my, oh, there's React right there. Why is it simple? Oh, I need it in my error text too, because I have a bunch of React Native components. So let's kind of get them all over there. So let's copy these over. Let's go to utils, and I have view text alert. Okay, so we've kind of created a separate utilities file. We've kind of cleaned up our login screen, and our auth stack now is a little bit cleaner. To save us kind of this whole exercise later, let's just, I like to save time and energy. So to save time and energy, we're going to copy our login screen, copy, paste. We are going to rename it create account screen. And that should, okay, now let's change this, create account screen. The reason why I did that is, as you can see, a lot of the, we're going to need the email address, we need a password field, we're going to use React Hook form, we're going to use yup. So let's just kind of start from a baseline instead of kind of retyping a bunch of stuff, and we'll just pull out the stuff that we don't need. And so then the next thing we can do is we can switch this import. Create account screen has already been declared, and then let's remove this import. So we've also kind of cleaned up my auth stack a bit, and let's check my create account screen. And so you can see I have my create account screen. We are going to now clean this up a bit. So what do we need? Well, first let's start with the database in the back end. And so, like I said, I did this. This is not a Supabase course. The how to set up Supabase and everything, I have a bunch of other videos that kind of explain that. Just as a point of reference, this is my schema for my backend, and as you can see, let's see, I think it's another way to look at this database. Yeah, so if I look at my profiles and look at my columns, so my profile has a first, has a last, updated at, a username, and an ID. So the approach that we're going to do is we're going to use Supabase authentication to authenticate a user with Supabase, and then we're going to insert a record in my profile table that'll be bound based on the ID, which will have additional data about the user. That's the approach I'm taking. I'll also include a link to just a plain React.js video that I have that goes into this in more detail. But that's what we're trying to do. So we have two steps when you create an account. You need to call the Supabase function to create the account. And then after the account is created in Supabase, then you're going to take that ID and then you're going to link it to a profiles. Is this the table called profiles? Yes, you're going to link it to a profiles table that will have this additional information of first, ID, last, and updated at username. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. I did that because I wanted to get the names. And so let's go into, let's start changing stuff. So this is going to be do create account. Supabase has a function called auth sign up, I believe. Sign up. And auth sign up takes, let's hover over this. It takes an email, a password, or phone. We're just going to send it an email and a password. And then it's going to give us a response that has the data object that we want in it. It will also let us know if we have an error. So you can see the response has a user session data and error. Okay, so this is how error creating user. And then we'll throw our normal alert that we have. So this is, so now we have our do create account. And this is just the first part, just signing up. We're going to validate this part works first and move to the next part. So now let's go down here and start to leverage the code we already have. So we know we need an email and we know we need a password. And we need a first and a last name. So let's just copy these and create these input fields. If you want more detail about this, look in the previous video because we kind of covered how we're using React Hook form and how we're setting these up. So this will now be called first name, and ID will be first, no capitalize, set value first, and then we have, this will be last name, ID will be last, no content type, set value last. For the purpose of this, let's see what we got when we refresh. Have any errors yet? Account, no, yeah, do login. Let's go back down to our submit. And this is create account. We're going to handle do create account, and then otherwise. So we're just going to navigate back to login. So we have our first name, last name, email, password. I have created account twice. This should not be. This is cancel. So create account, enter the information, or hit cancel. So we have the, and what's the other thing we need to do? Is that centered? It kind of looks a little low. See if I can adjust that a bit. Let's reduce the padding a little bit. Yeah, that moves it up a little bit more. We want to leave room because maybe we want to put a logo or image or something up there. So we have our basic form fields, and just a quick review of what we're doing here with React Hook Form as I kind of clean up the rest of this. So the first thing, we're going to set our default values, email and password we've carried over. So let's add our first and our last. So first, last. And then what we've done is when the component first starts, we register them. So we've already registered email, so let's register first and last. So now they're registered. So what this will do is this will bind these fields to React Hook Form and their validation, which is the last thing we have to do. So here's our validation for the login schema. We're going to call this let's just call this account schema. Keep it simple. What we need to do is tell React Hook Form that when you validate it, use the schema. And so we're going to put our account schema in there as a resolver. So we have first, last, email, and password. And so now let's set up the error messages. So invalid email, email is required, required password, password is a required field. Just copy this, first, last, and then we should have our error messaging for us. Let's update this. Oh, we got to update the IDs. So here we have our first name, and so we want to track error here for first. We want to track errors here for last. We want to track email and password's already set. Let's save. Let's see if we got that working. Create account. So password, email. Oh, I know. I didn't change the text. This should be first name is a required field. Last name is a required field. Now let's try. All right, now we're getting the proper error messages. We are getting our fields. The do login, let's go take a look at our do login. Here's our do login function. So right now for do login, we're just creating the user. So when you do this sign up here, you need to pass in an object with email and password. And so we're going to go like this. Let's do this way. Const email password equals data. And then, so we'll destructure that, get those values out of there. And then we will just go here and say email, comma, password. So that should get us the values that we want there. So what we want to do is if I get an error, we want to log that there's an error and return. If I don't get an error, then add user information to Supabase profile table. So that's the approach that we're going to take. And so to add that to the table, we're going to insert the additional information into the database. Let's just put some notes in here. Here's a link to the call that I'm using for sign up. Let's put some more comments here. Sign up user. And then the next one that we're going to do is actually, so down here, let's clean this up. Add user profile to table. And then I'll also drop in the link for the Supabase API call right there. We're going to be doing an upsert. And the way you do the upsert, let's just paste the code in and kind of talk through it. Okay, do create account data, identifier data has already been declared. User data, let's just change that. I don't have time to see what's really going on. So user data, change that to user data up there. Okay, so if there's an error, then we render the error creating user, and we return. Otherwise, we drop down and we add the profile information. Supabase has this insert function, and so what we're doing on the insert, we're going to get the, so in this response, we're going to take the user object, get the ID, and assign it to the ID. For first, well, let's just pull them all out. So we can go back up here and say first, last. Right? So now we have the fields that we need. So we have the ID, we have the first, we have the last, we have the updated at, and we have the email. And if I go back to our table, trying to zoom this in a bit, you can see these are fields that we need: the first, the last, the ID, the updated at, and the username. Let's move that back out of the way. And so we're going to add these tables. And then, of course, we want to handle the error condition again, kind of similar to what we did up here. So we can check and see if we got an error back, and if we got it. So let's just copy this. And we'll go down to the end here. So if error, because I destructured it, so I have error. Error, let's fix that. I'm just console logging the error message. And then once again down here, error creating user, writing profile information. So let's kind of walk through what we're doing again, and then we'll give it a run and see if it works. And if it doesn't, we'll debug it. So we will enter our information here, and then when everything's valid, it will get captured. What's going on down here with Supabase is on this handle submit. Handle submit will verify the data, and only if it's valid will it call this function, do create account. When do create account's called, it'll be called with the key value pair for all of these fields that I've created. And then let's go up to do create account. And then I'm going to take this, the data that I got passed in, I'm going to destructure it to get the fields I want out: email, password, first and last. I'm going to create an account in Supabase by passing in the email and the password. And then if I get an error, I will log the error and I will return an error message saying I had an error doing it. If I don't, then I will come down here and do the next part, which is to insert into the profile table the additional fields, which is the user, the first, the last, and updated at, along with the email address, which I'm substituting for the user name. If there's an error, I rendered an error message and return. If not, I suspect we probably want to go, let's go to the, because I believe that I'll be logged in at that. No, actually I shouldn't have to do anything, because what will happen is after the authentication, the way the application's built, so if we go back to the auth stack, or if we go back to app.js, what will happen is once this session's created, it will automatically redirect to the home screen, so I don't need to do anything. All right? So I can just go back to my create account screen. If there's no error, we just let it fall through and it will automatically redirect. And so that's the behavior that I believe we want to see. So now let's see what kind of errors we're getting. That error has been resolved. Let's reload. Okay, let's try to create a user and see if we're lucky on our first shot. So we'll go here, we'll say Aaron test user, AARON test user at mail.com. Let's confirm our error. See, password fields required, and then password, PASSWORD, and let's create an account. And it looks like I did throw an error somewhere. So let's see if we can figure out what I missed. So I don't know why I forgot, because I had built this a while ago. There is a known issue with Supabase and React Native. There is a blog post about it right here, which I will link to, which talks about there is an issue that is resolved by adding a polyfill. Here's kind of the steps, and so I'm going to give them a try and see if we can get this going. Now, the first thing I need to do is basically install this polyfill, so let's give that a go. And I'm going to open up another window, see if I can do all this without restarting everything. npm install. And then it says I need to actually import this thing. So I'm going to try to import it right here in my app for Supabase. Let's save that. Let's go back to my home. Let's reload this. Let's log out. And let's try to create another user. Senior AA Senior at mail.com. Password. And let's see. So it logged me in. I have the AASR there. Let's see if we can do something else to confirm that we have. So right now our profile's empty, but let's see if we can just throw a quick query in to get our profile information back. We're not going to do anything pretty. Well, first let's look at Supabase and see if we actually have our users created. So there's my AASR email account, which I just created, which is there. And then if I go to my tables, let's see, there's my AASR user that I created, my name and everything, first name, last name, username, everything's there. The last thing that I will try to squeeze in is, let's just see if we can just do a simple query to get that profile information back, to just show that we have a user when I go to my profile page, because right now my profile page is pretty empty. And the profile page is where we're going to see the implementation of the camera and stuff in the next video. So I believe the profile page is still buried inside of the home stack. We won't move it out this time around. It's not in here. Is it in, yeah, it should, in this, let's see if it's in the drawer stack. Here. Here it is. It's here in the drawer stack. So this is profile screen. We should be able to do a pretty straightforward query here. So let's do a use effect. And the same way how we are in our, where is our drawer stack? I'm already in my drawer stack. So let's see, find email. So here we're doing Supabase also user to get the email. We're going to do the exact same thing to get the ID. Let's go down here. All right. So we're going to get the email address. So let's say const ID. And then we're going to do a Supabase query to get my user information. So let's create the const, hold on, const user info set user info. And okay, and then now we need our query. And you know, for those, just going over this for those who don't know, but I can go straight to my API. I can go to my profiles, and then it just shows you here's how you find the profile by ID. So we're just going to kind of select this, and we're going to pop back over here, and then we're going to come down into our Supabase code, and we always get this thing here. So let's wrap this, and let's close this and then call it. And then inside of here, we're just going to say set user info to be profiles. This returns an array, so let's get the first index of the array and let's set that. And we're going to do this, you know, if there's no error. We'll clean this up more in a later video, but right now I just want to kind of get something going. And then let's go down inside of my view here, and inside of a text box, let's just do a JSON stringify. Why am I only getting my ID? Select. I don't. Sorry, I want select everything. So, okay, I did this all wrong. I wasn't paying attention. So what we want to do is we want to select all. I'm doing bad querying. So we want to select everything. My bad. I'm certain some of y'all caught that. Select that where equals, and then here we want to say ID, comma, ID. What am I'm setting my ID to email address, which is not right. That should be ID. We're going to wrap it up here because we want to, in the next video, we want to do some more interesting with the profile. I think one of the things we want to do is allow you to upload a photo during create account and then show you how to edit it here inside of your profile page. But, you know, we covered what we wanted to cover here. We showed you how to create an account in Supabase. We showed you how to execute a query in Supabase to get information. And we showed you how to insert information into Supabase with this insert function. So we're going to wrap it up here. And we'll, like I said earlier on, we will see you in the 6th video where we're going to work with the camera and uploading images. Once again, if you like this, please make sure you like and subscribe. And thank you for hanging in till the end. Bye now.